Hello there, beer nerds. How's it going this week? Thank you for bearing with me last week as I put out a little bit shorter video than I normally like to, but I had a nasty lung infection going on, and it was not working out. But I am back to my usual beer swigging self. Today I'm actually drinking a vanilla porter I traded from a local guy for some of my coffee stout. So we'll see how it is. But today I'm coming at you with some beer mail and a little bit of a discussion on a really, really bad beer law that may just go into effect in the state of Maryland here in the United States. But before we get into that, let's get started with some beer mail. Now, a lot of people do giveaways online for hitting certain subscriber milestones, and my good buddy over at Mostly Michigan Beer Reviews did one, and I just happened to win, which is really cool. So I got some cool beer swag in the mail. No actual beer, but I got something, sometimes it's a little bit cooler just to get the cool brewery swag. And so this is a cool sticker from Big Lake Brewing. I just have oodles and oodles of Michigan beer stuff here. So I got a bunch of Bell stuff, a Two-Hearted, Hop Slam coaster, a Two-Hearted coaster too, which is all great. And being here in the Midwest, I get a fair amount of Michigan brews out my way. This next one's actually really cool. It's actually a Bell's tattoo for one of their beers. I hope that comes through okay on the camera. But that's a really cool idea for summertime, and I haven't seen a brewery, at least in my area, come in with a cool tattoo as part of their swag. Of course, the founder sticker, just really, really great beer, and then just a lot of stuff from smaller ones. I don't know if I'll show it all to you, but things like this Tenacity Brewing sticker are really cool. Sheboygan Brewing Co. Now, in Wisconsin, where I grew up, we had a Sheboygan, a town called Sheboygan, and I've never seen it with the CH though. So Sheboygan Brewing, really cool. And then, of course, a cool little Beer No Evil sticker. So a lot of really cool stuff there. Thank you so much to Mostly Michigan Beer Reviews. I know he has suggested one of the topics of our videos in the past here on this channel. So go check him out. I'll throw a link to his channel in the description down below. Please go have a look. He does some great reviews. And of course, Michigan turns out a ton of great beer. And this vanilla porter is super on point. It has just a ton of that vanilla. Vanilla hits you right up front all the way through. It's got a lot of that great malt backbone you expect from a porter. And good little medium body. I'd say that's a good recovery beer. But the other thing I wanted to talk about today, and this is the ramble part of the Ramble with Ryan, is that there are some really crappy beer laws here in the United States, but the one that's working its way through the Maryland legislature right now is probably one of the worst ones I've heard of in kind of our modern craft brewing renaissance, because frankly, it's very easy for politicians to get behind craft beer and craft breweries. A lot of people like them. They create a lot of jobs. And as of yet, they haven't really put a lot of the big macro brewer employees out of work. So it's really kind of a win-win-win to give a lot of people. And the only people who don't really like a lot of craft breweries are certain bar owners. I wouldn't even say all bar owners, and distributors have had some challenges trying to carry an increased demand for numbers of SKUs and things like that, and then also just taking away beer sales from them when people go to things like tap rooms. And so, for those of you who aren't from the US, here we have a really, I don't want to call it stupid, because although that might be my opinion, I'm sure it has some good uses, but we have a really antiquated system when it comes to selling alcohol. So this arose strictly out of our prohibition. It's a 3-tiered distribution system. You'll find it, I'm pretty sure, in every state in the country. And you have a brewer who makes delicious beer. You have a distributor who buys that beer and has to distribute it and resell it to the seller of the actual product, which would be a bar or a convenience store, grocery store, gas station, whatever, wherever you allow beer to be sold in a particular state in this country. And so this was done to kind of make sure that, during the prohibition and speakeasy era, it got really easy for organized crime to buy up all steps of the distribution process, i.e. brewer, they distributed it themselves and sold it in a speakeasy. And, that really just made for a lot of really large organized crime rings. Now, one could argue if we didn't have prohibition in the first place, we probably wouldn't have all those crime rings. But the gist of it was, when prohibition got repealed, they put those controls in place to have this kind of separation of power. But of course, and that was good to avoid organized crime at the time. But at the same time, now that we have all these really small brewers getting funding and cranking out really good beers, it's gotten really hard for them to be able to sell beer to people and actually make money selling beer to people, especially when we see all the time stories of pay-to-play schemes where usually it was Anheuser-Busch, but I guess now everything's AB and Bev. Usually they would, bribe distributors to not distribute a lot of craft beer, make it hard for people to buy it, so they'd have to buy the big brands. And but like I said, it's very convenient nowadays, because craft beer is really popular, to kind of turn back some of these laws and make it easier for brewers to open tap rooms and sell to the public directly. Now, that brings us to Maryland today, who's been kind of behind when it comes to, redoing their beer laws and making it so that, you can actually have a viable small brewery. Today, if you're a craft brewery or a small brewery, or any brewery in general, located in the state of Maryland, you can only sell 500 barrels of beer per year for on-premise consumption. So that makes it really hard to have a tap room, because, you could only sell 500 barrels. And I mean, if you get a really exciting, craft beer scene, I'm pretty sure a lot of drinkers can plow through 500 barrels fairly quick. And so for years, these small brewers have been saying, look, it's great that we can still brew all this beer and we can sell it to bars and we can sell it, through distributors to liquor stores. Like, that's giving us some good numbers, but it's really, really hard to be profitable without a tap room. And so they've been pushing for years and years and years to try and get this limit raised. And of course, the bar owners don't want that. They don't want any competition for another place where people can get beer. And the distributors don't want that, because that means people are gonna skip them, the middleman, when they go out to drink in a tap room. So it's been an uphill battle for these craft brewers. Now, fortunately for Maryland brewers, or maybe unfortunately, as we'll see in a minute, Guinness has decided to move their headquarters of American operations, because they've really started to get into some of these new brewing trends. They're doing an American blonde ale, which actually is not that half bad. But don't talk to me, I'm not really a reviewer. But I think it's pretty good for a big macro brewery. But anyway, their parent company, Diageo, is that's how you say that. I don't know. They've been trying to push to get this limit raised, because they're building this giant brewery / like Guinness home base beer mecca, where they want to sell a whole bunch of Guinness stuff, do the usual kind of Guinness Way factory tours, things like that. And so, of course, as in any legislative body, whether it's here in the US or around the world, as soon as a big corporate special interest wants to move into an area, suddenly the legislature is a lot more willing to listen when it comes to this 500 barrel on-site premise consumption limit. And so, at first, Guinness was trying to push their own reform, and basically what they were trying to do was get an exemption for the specific county where they were going to be located in, so that they could sell a lot of beer while other craft brewers couldn't really do that. That line of lobbying is pretty transparently bad, and a lot of craft brewers got the word out that, hey, Guinness is trying to come in and get a special carve out for themselves without helping, and making us play by a different set of rules. And so, that pretty quickly got shut down, if you will. A lot of people saw right through it and were like, yeah, Guinness, you're not being very nice. And so eventually Guinness and the brewers lobby in Maryland kind of started working together. But there's an equally large distributor and bar lobby who has a strong, stake in keeping the 3-tiered distribution system as it is. And that's pretty much in every state, regardless of where you are. But, Maryland's been so entrenched for so long that their lobby is actually probably pretty good. And so they're like, yeah, no, we don't want that, but we don't want to seem like we're turning away Guinness, because that might actually help our bars and distributors. So instead, they kind of came together and lobbied for what they're calling a compromise bill. And of course, I put that in air quotes because it's not as great as it would first appear. Now, the bill has asked to raise the cap to between 4,000 and 5,000 barrels, which is plenty for a small craft brewery to run a tap room. That is a lot of beer that they can pour out. And that's really good. Now, there's a caveat with this, though. You could sell, like 2,000 or 3,000 barrels without any problem. However, anything over that, you need to sell it to a wholesaler first and then buy it back. And so let me walk you through that. Say I serve my 3,000th barrel of beer at my tap room. The next barrel the next keg I want to tap, I have to sell it to ABC Distribution Company first, for ABC Distribution Company's traditional markup, and then I have to buy it back. So, for example, I'll sell my keg of beer for $30, and then I'll have to buy it back from them at whatever their markup is, probably $35 to $40. And so I'm losing $5 to $10. You're losing a good percentage of your business before you even tap the keg. You're losing money on this barrel of beer. And so it's just a really kind of raw deal, forcing these breweries to literally buy their own beer. And of course, there's some tax collected in that intermediate step too, with that wholesaler. So of course, the state of Maryland gets theirs too. And it's really ridiculous that you can maybe get up to this limit, but anything after that, you literally have to take a percentage cut out of every beer you sell. And that's the compromise. The compromise is the little guy has to pay, a good percentage of their income to a wholesaler to do nothing. It makes no sense, and it's totally there to protect this wholesaler. But it passed the Maryland House unanimously this week. And it's a lot of funny because it's funny to me because the comptroller in Maryland, he was quoted as saying this, the buyback provision is nothing but crony capitalism. the brewery would have to purchase its own beer after paying to manufacture it. And that makes no sense. It's crony capitalism. This is why citizens are angry at Annapolis. Some well-connected interests can just come in and get whatever they want. And that's what the comptroller said. And to be honest, I'm pretty right there with him. It's ridiculous that you have to buy your own beer before you can sell it. And you know, I mean, these fights are happening all over the country. There are lots of states where we see, you know, distributor and bar lobbies trying to, you know, make it harder for breweries to sell their own beer. But this one of, you know, placing a kind of a smaller limit and then making people buy beer they already made, it's just not smart. It's ridiculous. And I mean, I know Guinness can afford to come in and pay a huge amount to sell as much beer as they want, but you know, a little craft brewery, what are they supposed to do? Now they have to figure out a way to make ends meet. And I mean, I guess they get a little bit more wiggle room than they used to, but still, it's just not fair. And this is probably one of the craziest and like most transparently, you know, corrupt beer laws I've ever seen. And even, you know, American state officials even seem to think so. And yet, you know, these things, they pass unanimously. And, you know, so, you know, what are we going to do though? I think the best thing we can do is to continue to try to speak out for these laws, speak out against these laws, and just, you know, point out the ridiculousness and some of the hypocrisy that's going on here. Anyway, that's my ramble for today. I'm sorry, I don't mean any offense to any Maryland brewers out there. You brew great stuff. I'm glad you got your barrel increase. I'm sure it's going to help your bottom line in the beginning, but it's still kind of ridiculous as a drinker to think that my favorite brewery has to buy their own beer from somebody else before they can pour me a glass. Anyway, I hope all you beer nerds have a great week. This Friday's episode, new episodes every Friday, by the way, but this Friday's episode, we are taking a long look into the world of hops. I found so many great sources. It's going to be a longer video, but I promise you're going to love it. So be sure to check back Friday for that. Cheers, beer nerds. Hope you have a great night.